Hello everyone, welcome to the Beanbird 2 channel where we talk about testimonies and the goodness of God. And today I want to read from 2 Peter chapter 2 where it talks about destructive doctrines. Unfortunately, we live in the age of deception, and there is a lot of false teachers, there's a lot of false churches out there, and we have to be aware. We have to know the scripture. We have to be able to know when there's half-truths present, and we have to be able to recognize when important pieces are omitted. We see a big movement today for church growth, numerical growth, and we see a lot of mega churches coming, and a lot of times quality is sacrificed for the quantity of people that they want to bring in. And so it's important that we hold true to biblical truths and that they're being taught, and that you can recognize things that are true from things that are not true, and that you can recognize when pieces of the Bible are missing or omitted. And so it's so important that we spend time in the Word, studying the Word on our own, so that we can recognize these scriptures when they're being used and when they're being used incorrectly. So going from 2 Peter chapter 2, it says, Destructive Doctrines. But false prophets also arose among the people, just as there also will be false teachers among you, who will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the master who brought them, bringing swift destruction upon themselves. Many will follow their sensuality, and because of them the way of truth will be maligned, and in their greed they will exploit you with false words. Their judgments from long ago is not idle, and their destruction is not asleep. For if God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to pits of darkness reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness, with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. And if he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to destruction by reducing them to ashes, having made them example to those who would have lived ungodly lives thereafter. And if he rescued righteous Lot, oppressed by the sensual conduct of the unprincipled men, for by what he saw and heard, that righteous man, while living among them, felt his righteous soul tormented day after day by their lawless deeds, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from temptation, and to keep the unrighteous under punishment for the day of judgment, and especially those who indulge in the flesh in its corrupt desires and despise authority. So I'm just going to go through some commentary. On the commentary, it says, Peter describes false teachers in details in this chapter so that Christians would always recognize their characteristics and methods. The greatest sin of Christ rejectors is the most damning work of Satan is misrepresentation of the truth and its consequent deception. Nothing is more wicked than for someone to claim to speak for God to the salvation of souls, when in reality he speaks for Satan to the damnation of souls. Peter's point, though, is that Satan has always endeavored to infiltrate groups of believers with the deceptions of false teachers. Since Eve, he has been in the deceit business, secretly introducing destructive heresies. The false teachers parade themselves as Christian pastors and teachers and evangelists. Heresies mean self-designed religious lies which lead to the division and factions. The word destructive basically means damnation. This word is used 6 times in the letter and always speaks of the final damnation. This is why it is so tragic when churches make virtue out of toleration of unscriptural teachings and ideas in the name of love and unity. Denying the master, this phrase exposes the depth of the crime and guilt of the false teachers. This unusual Greek word for master or Lord appears 10 times in the New Testament and means one who has supreme authority, whether human authority or divine authority. Peter here warns that false prophets deny the sovereign lordship of Jesus Christ. Through their heresies, they may include the denial of the virgin birth, the deity, bodily resurrection, the second coming of Christ, and false teachers. Basic error that they will not submit their lives to the rule of Christ. All false religions have an erroneous Christology who brought them. Oh no, that's a different one. All false religions have an erroneous Christology. I don't know that word apparently. And then the next part of it says the terms which Peter used here are more analogical than theological, speaking of a human master over a household. The master bought slaves, and the slaves owned the master's allegiance as their sovereign. And then it has citation. Doctrinally, this analogy can be viewed as responsibility for submission to God, which the false teachers had refused. Beyond this, they are probably claiming that they were Christians, so that the Lord had brought them actually and personally. That the Lord had bought them actually and personally. With some sarcasm, Peter mocks such claim by writing of their coming damnation. Thus, the passage is describing the sinister character of the false teachers who claim Christ but deny his lordship over their lives. Many people will profess to be Christians but deny Christ's lordship over their lives, refusing to live as obedient servants to Christ and his word, following instead the lusts of the flesh, the world, and the devil. Such nominal Christians tragically will be included in the Lord's condemnation and hypocrisies at the judgment. Denying the lordship of Christ while claiming to be a believer destructively infects other people and discredits the gospel. The world mocks and scoffs at the gospel of Jesus Christ because of nominal Christians who do not follow the Lord that they claim to follow. And they have been unmasked as hypocritical people. And people seek greed, an uncontrollable greed. Peter observed that the underlying motive of a false teacher was not the love of the truth, but the love of money. They exploited people through lies. The principle that God is going to damn false teachers was set in place in eternity past, repeated throughout the Old Testament, and is not idle in the sense that it has not worn out or become ineffective. It is still potent and will come to pass. Peter is personifying destruction as if destruction were an executioner who is fully awake and alert, ready to act. Because God is by nature a God of truth, he will judge all liars and deceivers. And so those are some powerful passages there. We have to be wise. We have to know our Bible. And we have to pray to the Lord for guidance in what we're doing, where we're going. The Lord orders the steps of the righteous. And pray to the Lord for direction and discernment. Pray for faith. Pray for wisdom. And yeah, that's what I have. Thank you.